Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and we have finally made it to the launch of Battle Spirit Saga here in North America, and I'm super excited to get into this format in general, and to kind of commemorate that, I wanted to go over some of my favorite lists in this current format as well. But real quick before we get started, first, if you guys don't know about it, I do run a website to go over Bandai card games in general, so it does include Battle Spirit Saga. I have pretty much, actually I do, I have every launch event from this these past couple weeks for this card game for people who've topped. I got the deck list there for you guys, and I also have the deck list categorized and by format or by archetype. So if you guys want any deck lists or see any results, I think it's like the best resource that exists right now for it, and a pretty good resource for all the other Bandai card games. So make sure to check that out if you guys want to see some deck lists that have proven to be good. And in general, most of the lists that I'm using are kind of analog to what some of these other lists are looking like, just kind of some of my personal spins. I didn't do side decks because I think that's usually like a really personal choice anyways, but I'm going to go over my decks in general and kind of loosely what archetypes they belong to, especially since this is a game where you have a lot of creativity and freedom in deck building, and so because of that, it's a little bit harder to categorize some of these decks as one archetype or the other, but we're going to try our best with that as well. So make sure to check that out, and for any reason, like, don't think that these are like the only decks that exist in the format. I think these are just like basic decks that are good for getting someone into how this game works and how deck building works, and then from there I hope it's a good resource for people trying to take the next step as well. So that's the kind of goal for this video. We're going to go over 4 different deck lists. We're going to start off with the first one here. So this is the red Terrasaur build, and this is a really interesting archetype in a lot of ways. Specifically, it was only topping in North America, and I think that's more of it was a kind of secret deck that was brewed here in North America. So based off the second place list personally is the one I'm looking at right now, but it's a really strong deck. It's very aggressive, and I think it's the best aggressive deck that we have right now. Just the fact that you run a bunch of these Terrasaurs and Emperor Beasts, and a lot of them are really well statted for what they are. Sure, they don't really have any effects, but you also have pretty much the best card draw in the game with this deck, with the Starblast Draws, with the Volcanic Canyon, with the Scorched Battlefield. All these cards draw cards for you, as well as, like, again, like, they're just super well statted for it. So Oviraptidon being able to be free and be, a 4K for 3 is pretty great. 3K is pretty easy to get rid of, so 4K is like kind of like the magic number to get over. Easy removal, I think, most times in this game. So for example, like Nebula Dragon only gets rid of 3Ks, and like Burning Force, like 2 of the better like removal cards use this as well. And also, if you play stuff for cheaper, it just means that you have more extra cores to put in your guys, which means that they're a little bit harder for like purple to remove all the cores for. So kind of the idea for that. So we have like Oviraptidon, Deliofosa, who's just a really big beat stick. It's a 4K for 1, which is crazy. Bearded Eagle, which is probably the best statted card in the game, in my opinion, for cost. You can play it for free if you have enough reductions for it, for a 3K, and then 2 you get a 5K, which is insane, and then 4 is 7K. So this is one of the best cards in the deck. We also have Dino Man, which early game can just start being really aggressive and be a 6K pretty easily, and then kind of everything else for you there. So big idea, and then you go into your Jurassic King Giganorex as soon as you get to it. Being able to be a 13K with Confront is really strong, and then also boosting all the DPs of all your other cards just means that it's really hard for your opponent to get around it. And since a lot of the destruction is based on how much DP a card has, it's really good there. So I think that this is a really strong deck for what it is. It's very fast, and you have to be very careful about just how much time you give them, because they can just really go off and kill you pretty quick. So I think this is one of the best decks in the format, honestly, and pretty cheap for what it is. I also don't think Absolute Ice Shield is needed for it, because you're the aggressive deck for it. So I think this could definitely be something that you have like 1 or 2 copies in, but you just put in the side and just put more gas in the deck if you really want to. You're really kind of security blanket of like having Absolute Ice Shield, but I don't think it's as needed. So if you don't like open as many as you need for these, I think you're totally okay with that. So anyways, here is my Terrasaur build, and then next up we have the Siegwurm Nova build. So you can obviously build this deck with Terrasaurs in mind too. There's kind of like a lot of like hybrid builds where you just have like the Siegwurm Nova and like your 6-drop like Star Dragons and stuff, but then you also run like your Terrasaurs as like the smaller package, and I think that's fine. I just kind of want to have something a little bit different between the two, and we're using this build in itself. So a couple of unique picks for me. One, Dark Bishop Baculus is honestly a really strong for what it is. The fact that you get to remove 1 core from everything is great, and that just means that it's also a 6-drop, which means you can ascend with it into your Nova. Obviously, you can't use the when summon effect to ascend, get your life back, but just the fact that this is really good at removing all the cores from everything, especially without choosing, which kind of comes up a little bit. So gets around armor, and then you can go into this, and that just means that you can attack with this and then just do some damage, like clear the board usually. Like this is a really good combo between the two of them, which you can help facilitate with like a big bang energy and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of good for what it is. Some other choice cards from mine. Andromedos, I really do like this card a lot. You do have to be careful. Sometimes it will bottom deck the good cards you're actually looking for. But if you are looking for like your Nova or like a Dragon Siegwurm, this just helps you get there a little bit quicker a lot of the time. You can also use it to find your Nebula Dragon, which helps you like get some Nexus removal if needed. So it's fine for what it is, and also the reduction that it gets when you play it is kind of nice too. So I like playing this card so far. Maybe it's not the best in choice, but I've been enjoying it. And then Blade Dino Terrasaur, I think some people are not liking this, but Confront is strong with this guy, and then also being able to get some potential draw if you really need to, I think it's great. So I would say, like, obviously Siegwurm Nova is like the poster child for this game, or at least like the first set in general, and he is really strong. I think it's very good. It's going to be hard to tell if just a lot of the, it was a percentage thing that a lot of people were playing this deck, which means that it was going to do good anyways, but I think it's something that a lot of people are kind of looking for, and so here's mine. It's a little bit like teched out for what it is, and if you want like a more standard build, there's definitely a lot of builds on my website too if you guys want to see that as well, but here's my current build for it right now. All right, next up we have Purple Curse or Soul Control or whatever. Like purple's like the hardest deck to kind of like decide what you want to name it, but here's my current build of purple right now, and it's in a really good spot. I'm actually really happy with this build format. I didn't really like my build when I went to the launch event, and I was stupid and didn't play Star Blessed Draw, even though it's like the best card in the game outside of Ice Shield. So I ended up putting this in, and I liked it a lot, and it's solid for what it is, because sometimes you just need to draw cards in this deck, and if you can set it up as your burst, you can just draw 4 cards, which is silly. So you just have to be careful of like knowledge of what decks you're playing against, and if they're going to be playing when summon effects, but I think there's a good chance in most of these decks that you can get like a Star Blessed Draw off early enough. Though I will say like Terrasaur doesn't really have like a lot of on-play effects, and additionally you'll see in the white deck that we have, there's not like a lot of on-play effects for this deck either, so you have to be a little bit careful with that, but again, drawing is very good. So but you're also running the Maduke, which is such a solid card in a lot of ways, and the only reason I would say like this is maybe not a good card is because if you're running against something that's a little bit faster, you're gonna have like a hard time like setting this up. Sometimes it's just like dead in hand, but I would say like traditionally the hardest matchup for this deck is probably white, and this card just beats the white matchup very easy. So it has Blood Curse, which just means when this would be destroyed by your opponent, you may place 1 core from your opponent's life and 1 core from the spirit into their owner's trash to keep the spirit on the field refreshed, which means that you can do some silly things. So real quick, we're gonna look at this guy right here. So let's say this has 3 cores on it, then it's a 6k, and most of the time like they would defend with this, and they'd be able to they use their effect to just kind of burn you late game, right? That's kind of like the idea for that card in this deck. But if we look at Maduke for the Blood Curse, when this card would be destroyed by your opponent, you may place 1 core from your opponent's life and 1 core from the spirit into their owner's trash, keep the spirit on the field refreshed. So normally the deck has just like a bunch of good blockers that you really can attack over, but with Maduke you get to attack, and then if they block, you get to, and they're bigger than you, which is pretty easy at 6k, you get to Blood Curse, restand yourself, and also do some burn damage. So it's really good for closing out that matchup, and it's just a really solid card in general. So I really like it for that, and you can definitely put some more on the side if you're worried about playing that deck more, but it just helps out a lot of your matchups there. Otherwise, purple does have like a lot of good toolbox cards for a lot of things. You can always find an option to get rid of something. Baculus with Curse Dragon is just like a free removal for you, which is really nice, and it just helps you out for a lot of situations. It is very costly for what it is, but it's good there. And I haven't really experimented with this, but I think that there could be like a red purple build that could be very strong, specifically with like the idea of Volcanic Canyon. Being able to draw 1, discard 1 is actually pretty good for your, not only your own cycle, but just the fact that you can put your Beldegors into your trash And then from there, you can play them later, which is really great from like your 4s and 5s. So that's something that I want to kind of experiment probably in the next couple of weeks. But I want, if you guys are thinking the same thing, I'm on the same wavelength. You should definitely test it out. If you find success, let me know. But purple is just a really good color in general. Like it just has like Deadly Balance is a great card. Core Theft is a great card. Like your Netherworld Depths, people are teching this card in just because it's like the best card draw, and also the level 2 effect can be very good too, which is really strong because it gets around armor because it doesn't choose, so that's kind of nice too. And curse, I don't know, it's a really cool color. Just sometimes you need momentum to get started, but once you do, you get a really good start. So anyways, here's my purple list, and then lastly we're going to go into the white list, and this is more of a control build for what it is. And but man, when it gets to control the board, it does a really good job doing so, especially with the Fan Attack Elk. Like this just kind of win matchups a little bit. Like you can just get into like just scenarios where if you have this out with like Absolute Ice Shield, you just get to do free damage essentially, like with these two together, as long as you have like the cores for it, which is great. Your opponent can have some like removal for it depending on what matchup you're playing against, but if you have this with like an Enterprise out, you're probably fine. The only thing like you kind of lose to is like Baculus is like pretty much the only thing you can lose to for this, just because it if you don't have like the Ice Maid Fulla, if like Ice Maid Fulla with this is sometimes good, or like it's usually with the Enterprise, but I don't know, white is definitely like a really good color for putting up like a really big barrier and then just getting a lot of effects from there. Also, don't sleep on the elephant. The elephant's amazing if you're able to establish this. When most of like the two cards that I think that overperformed that I thought were going to be bad were both the elephant and also the Maduke. And the reason is that both of these cards have effects that are dependent on getting destroyed, or like having like pretty much getting destroyed, right? And when I was playing, like if you put 3 cores on this, like 6k is a big number. People are not going to be able to attack over it, or they can just choose not to block, pop this. But when playing more and more, sometimes they really don't have a choice for it. And this is like just a really good blocker at 7k, and that if they have to get rid of it, you ramp and draw cards, which white really wants both those things. It doesn't have a lot of card draw, which is why you're also putting Star Blessed Draw in this deck. Pretty much you use Rocket City not to card draw, but to prevent your opponent from drawing a lot of the times. And you really can't mulligan with white, because you just get no way to kind of get card advantage with it. And because of that, like if you do that mulligan, you're like discarding a card, which just really stinks against as this list in general. But this is probably like one of the best decks in the game right now. It's just really obnoxious to deal with. Suppression is a really great card too. Like with the Fanatec Elk, it's just like another copy of Ice Shield in the deck, which is great. And you do have to be careful there. So anyways, those are my list for right now in this format. If you guys want any of them, they are linked in the description below. But these are the ones I've been really having a lot of fun with. And if you can't tell, I haven't really found a good yellow deck that I really enjoy. So if you guys have one, you want to share it, let me know in the comments too. But I've been having a lot of fun, a lot of open deck building choices, especially just for having us in set 1, which is really cool. And I've just been having a lot of fun building these decks and testing them and stuff. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy your own release. Let me know what decks you guys have been working on, and that's going to be it for me. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.